The trial excavation of the Yangtze River Estuary No. 2 shipwreck began with 4 test pits, T1 to T4, at the southern end of the archaeological site. Excavated sediment was meticulously packaged and washed bag by bag. A 2mm mesh sieve ensured that no valuable artifacts were missed.
这边是一个比较重要的一个发现嘛，口径比较大的一个木桶，然后里面现在是比较完整的一个货物。
In compartment CS11 of T4, a wooden bucket filled with Famil rose porcelain was discovered. The cargo and its packaging were exceptionally well preserved. This is extremely rare in underwater excavations.
那它还有大有小，那个好像小一点。
下面还有，
这个是目前来说最好的一个装仓的方式。
Observation revealed that the porcelain inside the bucket varied in diameter, which made full use of available space.
最好是套起来拿实验室慢慢清，这样子不影响我们进度。
这是最完美的一个预想方案。
对对对。
把这些货物放上船以后，先装什么，后装什么，它们之间的空间关系是什么样？长江口2号这条船给我们提供了一个活生生的这种案例。
Several cups were distinctly different in shape. These cups have Western-style shapes, yet their Famil rose bodies feature traditional Chinese motifs, such as children being tutored, scholars, noble ladies, and the melon and tendrils design.
出乎我们意料的，也是大家比较喜爱的一个小造型的一个杯子。
Where did these cups come from? What were they used for? And who would have used them?
18世纪的一个荷兰东印度公司向广州发过去的一个瓷器设计图稿，他们其实是严格区分了茶杯、咖啡杯跟巧克力杯，就发现我们的这个杯子呢，长得更像它里面所谓的这个巧克力杯。
这条沉船，不管它最后的目的地是奔向何方，通过它也可以反映到了清代晚期这个阶段，中国怎么样去通过这种内陆的相应的这种生产和世界产生相关联系。
而且它代表了一种中西交融的时代背景，从这个瓷器的角度来说。
In compartment CS11, Celadon vases with 2 ears and blue and white designs were found once more. Having previously been recovered during preliminary underwater surveys, these were a pleasant surprise for the archaeologists. Earlier, such discoveries had contained smaller porcelain pieces within. The newly excavated vases stood just 40 centimeters tall, yet were surprisingly heavy. Before cleaning, archaeologists decided to perform a CT scan to determine whether or not they also contained smaller porcelain items.
我们想通过科技和文献的这种结合来解读一艘古沉船，目标呢复原整个长二的全生命的周期，为整个的上海就近代开埠以来的贸易的网络做考古学上的很扎实的一个研究。
Visiting the testing center is like traveling through time. More than 100 years have passed since the double-eared vases sank to the seabed, and this port city has undergone tremendous changes during that time.
这重的，里面全重的，里面都是泥。可以进来吗？
An X-ray revealed the interior of the vase.
里面一个海产品都没有。
里面还
对，里面非常的应该说一个细腻一个字，就是直接泡就可以了。而且你看这里都很致密的，就当然有的是。
The vase contained nothing but dense silt. This was still a valuable find, as it held a wealth of information.
泥跟海混成一谈的东西，把它给认识出来，这个是我相信每一个人都很想知道。
看得到吗？
哦，我看到了，看到了。
然后它有一定的速度。
The mud contained abundant biological remains and DNA. Such material is essential for molecular archaeology.
这上面也有这个痕迹，有明显的反光。
把长江口2号沉船当做一个生命体去研究，把它看作一个时空胶囊，去反映当时上海在水道上的地位，以及当时的这种贸易网络。
After sequencing DNA extracted from the sediment surrounding the artifacts, technicians made an unexpected discovery.
发现了很多和水稻相关的病菌的 DNA， 它们并不是分布在水稻的同一个部位的，对水稻的利用是各种各样的。然后我在这个植轨体当中发现了非常明确的属于主字的长安型的植轨体，可能会先用这个稻草去把它捆扎起来，然后再用竹篾给它相当于扎一下，更牢固一些。
Rice husks were placed between porcelain pieces to cushion them. Rice stalks were used to bundle them together. Bamboo strips provided reinforcement. Modern biotechnological analyses support depictions of the Qing dynasty found in artwork. Invisible to the naked eye, biological damage began to threaten the ship's hull from the moment it was raised from the water.
这些遭朽的这些木头状况会越来越差，这个生物病害会贯穿到这个船的始终。
Technicians regularly collected air samples from the chamber to analyze gas composition and detect subtle wood changes, enabling preventive measures before further deterioration.
自从保护舱开始运行之后呢，我们所有的东西基本上还是一个比较平稳的一个状态。
As the trial progressed, monitoring and protecting the hull itself faced severe challenges.
明显波动很大，
调节侧面的托架，
但是它只达到0.06毫米啊。
A vibration with 0.06 millimeters amplitude created a deep V-shaped waveform on the monitoring platform.
它可以对力进行一个监测，它可以对变形进行监测，可以对湿度和温度进行监测。
Distributed optical fibers went deep into the hull like a neural network. Together with high-precision cameras and automated monitoring devices, they observe every subtle change in the hull in real time during excavation.
大屏上实景展现现场的一个情况，进入了我们预警范围内的数值呢，可以提前进行预警。
During the excavation, technical staff simultaneously conducted artifact surveying, positioning, image capturing, and a panoramic scan of the entire ship. Each artifact underwent 3D scanning for digital preservation.
可以通过数值复原的手段模拟出我们发掘的这样一个过程，提供给大家更加真实的、可亲近的这样一个参观体验。
As the excavation progressed, archaeologists discovered that the porcelain aboard Yangtze River Estuary No. 2 was not all produced in Jingdezhen, a region in Jiangxi Province known for its ceramics.
有发现明确的福建跟广东地区窑口的器物，很有可能是香港大埔晚窑的器物。另外呢，还有明确的闽南地区窑口的瓷器。
Among porcelain items recovered from the test pit, 3 were produced at kiln sites in the Guangdong region. 2 originated from Fujian, and 1 came from a Lungchuan kiln in Zhejiang Province. After counting the porcelain shipped to Shanghai from various domestic ports between 1864 and 1866, Geryan found that ports such as Shantou, Guangzhou, Fuzhou, and Xiamen all sent porcelain to Shanghai.
从九江进口了14561担粗瓷器，当年从汕头也进口了瓷器，厦门呢是只有0.82担。那么这么一个数量比例呢，也正好跟我们长江口2号瓷器的窑口的比例呢是正好相合的。
Cross-referencing archaeological excavations with historical records further emphasizes Shanghai's vital role in the porcelain trade network. A variety of everyday items were also uncovered, offering new insights into the ancient ship.
3事儿，就是那个银的，然后能挖耳勺、能当剪刀的，还有一个那个尖尖的，其实是可以拆解东西用的。根据这些，我们或许能判断它到底要往哪儿去。当时船上生活着哪些人，他们的生活习惯是什么样的，他们又经历了什么。
A mysterious item, covered in plastic, stood out against the orderly array of blue and white items.
就这2片。
跟国产玻璃的成分是不一样的，肯定是纯进口的东西。
Preliminary testing detected DNA, likely from magnolia and camellia plants in residue within the glass bottle. Studying the English inscription on the bottle, archaeologists reached a surprising conclusion. This was a bottle of hair oil from a 19th century British brand.
出乎意料，我觉得可以算奢侈品了。
东西是可以在国外查到档案的，它当时在全球都有投放广告。
你看上面就是它的边上写的是罗兰的马萨卡油，然后 for the hair 就是发用。
很难想象，在船上那一个就我们认为是枯燥的，或者说是一个无趣的地方，然后会有男士化妆用品，他到底要给谁看？反正也是挺爱美的一个男人吧。
Though the owner of the bottle is difficult to identify, it's clear that the introduction of Western goods had already brought new ways of life to China.
通过这个船上的生活的用品呢，我们也更好地了解那个时期的船上的这种生活，因为它是一个时间的胶囊。当它沉没的那一块的话，很多的这种历史被凝固在那一刻了。
也可以体现了上海这种城市啊，它的开放性、它的包容性，它是一个多元的，体现的很重要的就是这个码头文化、商业文化的基因非常深厚。
还有一个证据呢，就是我们前面这个。 这个底板，船底应该纵向，它是横向的。
叫什么文物提取的那个平台。
The archaeological team simultaneously studied the form, structure, and shipbuilding techniques of ancient Chinese sailing ships to facilitate the future restoration of Yangtze River Estuary No. 2. During the early stages of excavation, it was not possible to examine the structure of the entire ship. Could the enormous rudder blade at the southern end be part of the stern?
我们对中国古代木帆船的认识确实深度还是不够，还需要这个加强，还是要通过理解古船，让它船体自身去说话。
To assess the structure and manufacturing techniques of such vessels, Zhai Yang and his colleagues traveled thousands of kilometers to conduct field research on an island. Kong Bing Huang, the 69-year-old inheritor of the Dongshan shipbuilding technique, has been building large wooden vessels since he was 12, learning from his father. His comprehensive knowledge covers everything from hull structure and proportions to materials and craftsmanship. As wooden ships gradually disappeared, Kong Bing Huang's techniques became highly valued by specialists. The Yangtze River Estuary No. 2 archaeological team commissioned him to craft 2 small Canton ship models at a 1:15 scale, faithfully reproducing the structure of the full-sized vessel.
蒲老师，你好，
Kong Bing Huang, Zhai Yang, and colleagues compared ancient texts with a model ship. They documented the structure and construction techniques of ancient Chinese wooden sailing ships.
这个是前面是镂空的啊，
镂空的是为了漏水是吧？啊，渔获，哎，渔获，这个叫什么？
豆柄。
这会有铁箍来固定吗？
对对对，它这个尾是有着翼。
它好像就是有2个孔。
它有个寒潭嘛，这个这站。
As the ship model neared completion, Zhai Yang and Zhao Liu paid special attention to a structure called the Hantan. This is a crucial component on Chinese wooden sailing ships. It secures and protects the mast. Running across the hull beneath the main deck, its ingenious concave notch provides space for the vertical mast's movement. The notch of the Hantan for a Canton ship faces toward the bow. Would the orientation of the Hantan's notch on the Yangtze River Estuary No. 2 wreck help determine the bow?
我们这里这个舱清过之后，就发现这边靠东边的那个，它比这个舱板要宽一段。
这是一个寒潭，
对，
然后这是寒潭的这个凹口，一部分的凹口，一部分凹口。
Fortunately, half of the Hantan of the Yangtze River Estuary No. 2 remains. It is clear that its notch faces the southern end of the site. If the southern end is the bow, then why does the rudder blade, which should be located at the stern, seem to be here? Faced with a significant contradiction, the archaeological team did not jump to conclusions, but instead continued to look for clues. On May 26, 2025, after 8 months of exploring trial pits, full-scale excavation of the Yangtze River Estuary No. 2 shipwreck officially began. As more and more artifacts were recovered, the ship's true form became increasingly clearer. Another wooden fragment bearing ink inscriptions emerged. Characters reading "Swift Progress," leads to smooth transport, peace, and winter month inscription could be deciphered after cleaning. When one double-eared vase was lifted, a piece of straw mat with a distinct texture was revealed. It had silently protected porcelain for more than 150 years. A wooden bucket filled with Famille Rose porcelain was also lifted and cleaned.
有一片木桶板呢，上面是有一个耳朵一样的结构，跟我们清代瓷器装运图上面木桶的形象呢是基本一致的。对于我们去研究瓷器的装运呢是具有价值的。
Around the wooden bucket, ropes used for bundling and transportation were even discovered.
未来呢，我们会把这一批木桶板呢重新拼贴为一件完整的木桶。
Inside this wooden bucket, 10 pieces of Famille Rose porcelain in a range of sizes was recovered. It was decorated with 4-season flower designs. Cups, bowls, plates, saucers, and a spoon form a complete set of tableware. Unlike other Famille Rose porcelain, the interior base of this set features a ring of green grass patterns, making it particularly distinctive. A Makara, revered by ancient seafarers as the embodiment of the water god who safeguards voyages, was also recovered during the comprehensive excavation. With the head of a dragon and the body of a fish, it is believed to bring prosperous business and bountiful harvests. Drawing on comparative studies of Shanghai sand ships, as well as that of vessels from Guangdong and Fujian, the archaeological team gained a deeper understanding of ancient Chinese wooden sailing ships.
我们这个寒潭的缺口是朝南端舵叶的方向，这个舵叶的位置就南端是船尾的话，说明我们这艘特大型的沙船它是一个后倒尾的结构，也就是说它在遇到风浪的时候，它要把桅杆放下来的时候，它朝后方的。所以呢，我们对于船首和船尾的判定呢，还是要慎重一点。那么今后呢，我们再发掘一下这个北端，我们做南端和北端再进行一下比较，最终再确认船首和船尾。
On November 27, 1808, the 13th year of the reign of Emperor Jia Qing in the Qing dynasty, amidst fierce winds and ocean currents, the Chinese sand ship Yuchang Fa drifted to a small island in the Pacific Ocean. The following May, it safely returned to Shanghai. The Yangtze River Estuary No. 2 was not as fortunate as the Yuchang Fa. With its sinking, Chinese sand ships gradually vanished from the seas. Yet, Shanghai continued to rise to become a new international shipping hub.
001，我是孟元昭。你好。待会儿你们那个船往西边。可以啊。
The day after the complete salvage of the Yangtze River Estuary No. 2 shipwreck, the Chinese underwater archaeology team returned to the Yangtze River Estuary.
最后他打捞完成以后，第二天我就去做了一下早测测量，声学的一个调查。
上线了，啊。
Survey results showed that on the seabed of Yangtze River Estuary No. 2, only a neat rectangular pit remains.
最后看一下它那个打捞完的一个现状，取了以后那个剩下来的一些地形是什么一个状态？
这是洞，这是那个沉船，现在已经是一个洞了，是个大坑了。
Throughout China's surrounding seas, thousands of ships lie submerged, each carrying unfulfilled dreams. The progress of underwater archaeology continues, as does humanity's long history and fascination with the ocean.